Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, which can be streamed live and free every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern from Wham Talk 1600's Freedom Bunker. All you have to do is go to davejanda.com, hit the Listen Live button every Sunday from 2 to 5, and you will experience, guaranteed, great guests, great content, information the bought-off, lamestream fake media will never touch, and great analysis. We're there for you every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern, also available obviously on this YouTube channel, also available on davejanda.com, both the free side as well as the public side, as well as the subscription side with extra shows, our WTF show, our geopolitical show, our Insider Insight show with added guests. This week we had Rosemary Gibson, who was the, if you will, whistleblower who came forward and speaking about how our prescription medications, generic medications, many of the vitamins that we take, aspirin, for example, are all sourced out of China, and how that has such a deleterious effect on our country and every citizen. I must say, when we first brought Rosemary on our platform 6 months ago, we got tremendous grief that we were being xenophobic, that we were being racist. No, we were just being honest. And it's interesting, now everyone's up in arms that, oh, this is an issue. Well, we called attention to it many months ago. And that's what we do at Operation Freedom. We bring you information far ahead of the curve to protect you and to protect your freedoms. We hope you'll become a member of our freedom family at davejanda.com. Today's presentation is entitled, They Fear the People, and They Fear General Flynn. And might I add, his attorney, Sidney Powell. I turn to former Congressman Thad McCotter, who recently came on our platform and said the following as it relates to this pandemic. Because of the unknown in this pandemic, policymakers have every incentive to overreact, for they are the ones with the most to gain and the least to lose by overreacting. The issue then is when the American public, who are losing everything with every passing day, determines there has been an overreaction. By no later than early May, it would be wise for policymakers to articulate a comprehensive, not superficial, comprehensive, proportionate, fact-based plan for any public health measures needing to be continued, curbed, or canceled. The public's patience, they're strained, as their family budgets are. The American people deserve the explanations and will settle for no less. And we're starting to see around the country, not just here in the largest POW camp in North America, that being the state of Michigan, under the auspices of the incompetent commandant, just like from Hogan's Heroes, Commandant Klink, the incompetent overseer. Our incompetent overseer here in Michigan, as I outlined before, is Commandant Klink Gretchen Whitmer, or whatever you want to call her, Typhoid Whitmer or Corona Gretchen, all the same. The public's outraged. And this is not a right-left issue. This is about what we have always spoken about on this platform, up being freedom and down being oppression. The oppression that's being implemented by the totalitarians, not just here in the state of Michigan through Whitmer, but around the country, around the world, is off the charts. And it has, quote, woke, end quote, many people off the couch, out of their slumber, and have mobilized them. Protesting is fine, much to the chagrin of the totalitarians. Protesting peacefully, it is the key. And that is happening, much to the chagrin of the deep state and the totalitarian puppets that they control. You see, because they fear the people. This is also the reason why they fear General Flynn and his attorney, Sidney Powell. Because they're pointing out the injustices of the just us, JUST-us system that has developed over a number of decades' time here in the United States. The globalists, anything goes. There is no rule of law for the globalists. But there's a rule of law for you and me. And then they take that rule of law and they subvert it to such a point that they use it as a club to beat our freedoms and our liberties into the ground. And people are waking up. One of the silver linings of this pandemic, and it's been horrible, thousands of people have lost their lives to this freedom-stripping virus, as I've outlined. But many people have, quote, woke, end quote, up about the deep state, about the totalitarians, about the New World Order, the globalist syndicate, the whatever you want to call them. In fact, there was a recent article written by Caitlin Johnson in Medium.com. I want to give you a couple highlights from it. The article was entitled, "They are rolling out the architecture of oppression now because they fear the people." Edward Snowden recently said the following, quote, "Do you truly believe that when the first wave, second wave, the 16th wave of the coronavirus is long forgotten memory, that these capabilities will not be kept, that these data sets will not be kept? No matter how it is being used, what is being built is the architecture of oppression." That was Edward Snowden. Quote, "There's a glaring problem. We've heard all this before. After the September 11th attacks, Americans were told that greater monitoring and data sharing would allow the state to stop terrorism before it started, leading Congress to grant unprecedented surveillance powers that often failed to preempt much of anything. The persistence and expansion of this spying in the nearly 2 decades since and the abuses exposed by Snowden and others remind us that emergency powers can outlive their emergencies," end quote. The reason for this is simple. This is Caitlin Johnson. She's right on target. The powerful are afraid of the public. They always have been. For as long as there has been government power, there has been the fear that the people will realize the power of their numbers and overthrow the government that is in power, that being the deep state. And understandably so, it has happened many times throughout history. Journalist Jonathan Cook said it best when he wrote, quote, "Our leaders are terrified not of the virus, but of us," end quote. And they are. They're panicked. They're desperate. And they're flailing. Oh, I know. You're not going to get that from the bought-off lamestream fake media. Why? Because they're a tentacle of the deep state. I think even the most sheltered in place here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, are even starting to figure that out. It took this pandemic to, quote, woke, end quote, them up. Yeah. Many of those people for a decade's time since the inception of Operation Freedom that have criticized me, not just criticized me, disparaged me, are now apologizing. It's shocking. One of the things that shocked people here in Michigan was the fact that so many people are protesting Commandant Klink Gretchen Whitmer and her totalitarianism, her abuse of power, Her stripping of the very basic freedoms and liberties people have here. And understand something. Every governor in the country is watching Commandant Clink Whitmer and trying to figure out, hey, can I get away with that? You think I can? Maybe I can. Let me give it a try. Let me see. And that's why this reaction here at Ground Zero in Michigan is so important. See, last week, the state legislature that is in, quote, Republican, end quote, hands in the House and Senate here in Michigan, the leadership has been essentially mute about this freedom-stripping agenda of Whitmer. They've actually kind of gone along with it, though, the leadership. Now, all of a sudden, they start to see the protest. They're getting a lot of backlash. So when it came down to a vote to extend her onerous totalitarian stripping agenda last Thursday, they didn't vote for it. And in fact, an individual who I recently featured on this platform, a Democrat from the city of Detroit, an incredible freedom fighter, Karen Whitsett. If you haven't watched that interview, you must. And then you must network it. That interview is being suppressed. And it's being suppressed because anyone and everyone who watches it and listens to it not only learns about the heart and the soul of Karen Whitsett and her helping the people of Detroit and the people of Michigan and the people of the United States through her efforts, but they get a glimpse into the heart and soul of the President of the United States that you'll never see, hear, read, or experience through the bought-off lamestream fake media, and that includes Fox. On this vote, Karen Whitsett, well, she voted for freedom. This wasn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a vote for freedom versus oppression. And freedom won. Shocked many people. It was voted to stop Whitmer, Commandant Whitmer in her tracks. And it did for a couple hours. And then at 11 o'clock that night, she pushed through an executive order. Oh, heck, I'm not going to listen to the legislature, the people that were elected. No, I'm going to do my own thing. So now there's some lawsuits. There's a lawsuit of the legislature against Commandant Clink Whitmer. There's a lawsuit of 5 businesses in Michigan against Commandant Clink Whitmer. And there was a lawsuit of some individuals against Whitmer and the state government for this shelter-in-place ongoing issue. And last week, it went before the Michigan Court of Claims Judge Christopher Murray. Christopher Murray, remember this totalitarian thug's name. Went in front of Judge Christopher Murray in the Court of Claims. And here's what Christopher Murray, the judge, ruled. He ruled, guess what? Being a good deep state totalitarian thug, he ruled in favor of Whitmer. Oh, yeah. Keep the people suppressed. Strip them of their freedoms and liberties. But here's what he said. You ready? Sit down. Quote, constitutional rights are subject to reasonable regulation by the state, end quote. What? Obviously, this judge has not recently read the Michigan Constitution, let alone the United States Constitution, let alone the Bill of Rights. But that's where we stand. Why did he rule that way? Because he, as a puppet of the totalitarian thugs in deep state, are panicked about who? You. And your family. And your neighbors. And everyone you know. Their world is falling apart. They thought the pandemic was going to make their world a better place to be. Yeah, they did. That's why it was unleashed. And guess what? It's backfiring. Big time.